Welcome to the podcast where your next favorite story is already written in the stars.
We're your new book besties, April.
And Tay, here to get your book cravings started and satisfied.
Why?
Because around here, it's faded.
So grab your current read, maybe a cozy drink, and hide your TBR list because today we're playing a game of He's a 10, but
He likes to play Chase in the Woods.
He's a 10, but
He's a spring court high lord.
if you know, you know.
It's going to be a good episode, y'all. We're going to
I'm
be,
so excited.
talking about men and some possibly toxic traits that might make you interested in reading that book.
Right? I've seen some unhinged ones of these,
Ooh,
so I'm
yes.
so excited.
Yeah, I was going like really deep down the rabbit hole of
Mhm.
research on this one, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's some like really possessed books. So we might need to have like a whole episode of just like maybe he's a 10 but unhinged.
Unhinged version, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, I'm going to start us
give it
off.
to me.
Okay, this one here. He's a 10, but
Ooh.
he's a rebel shadow daddy, and you're stuck in an iron collar, and you're set for the pyre, and he betrays you multiple times. This book is Between Life and Death by Jaclyn. So I always preface this one by saying, think like ACOTAR, but like less of a complex world and a lot of gods making deals and doing shady things. Obviously, I mean, homegirls in a collar, but we have a spicy herself heroine and all of the best tropes like forced proximity, found family, and a good old rebellion arc against a tyrannical ruler who likes to burn people at the stake if they have magic.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is like I love a guy that's like, I'll kill everybody for you. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Shadow daddy,
Thank
but
you.
at the same time, I'm also going to betray you.
Yeah. That's a good one. Start off with a
Yeah.
bang. Okay, here's mine. I said, he's a 10, but he's your boss and you nanny his child. We're doing the Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. Tallulah is a chaotic, sunshine au pair who ends up working for Burgess, a grumpy, overprotective single dad who's convinced that he has zero time for love. They really try hard to keep things professional. They fall so spectacularly. It's basically Grumpy Sunshine, Forced Proximity, Found Family, and a whole lot of Tessa Bailey chemistry. If you love a man who falls first and acts like he absolutely didn't, this one is for you.
I love Tessa Bailey books.
I do too. They're just such a good feel good. I particularly love this one because she has an obsession with penguins. She actually studies in Antarctica for a little while. And so she needs to come back and make some money. So she becomes a nanny. And I was like, girlfriend has my dream job.
I
Our
was about to
listeners here,
say.
if you don't know, my favorite animal is a penguin. If I could live amongst the penguins, I would. But I wouldn't do it in Antarctica. I would do it with the South African penguins up in Cape Town, South Africa. I already thought about this. I would go there, like I would live there. It would be fine. Boulders Beach. Every year they have these penguins that like swim their way up and then they just have a whole mating thing. And it's like miles and miles of penguins. So if you live in Cape Town and you're listening to this, you're living my dream and I hate you.
You know, I've been seeing lots of puffin penguin TikToks lately, and I think of you every single time I see those. And they like fly.
Yeah. There's so many cute penguins. I'm like particularly a fan of Gentoos. Gentoos are the ones that they use a lot in movies like Mr. Popper's Penguins and a bunch of the other movies because they're the most gentle breed, but they're not going to use rockhoppers and emperor penguins because they're aggressive. So
Oh,
if you
God.
see happy feet and stuff with them animated, it's because they're cool and chill, but in real life, they're really not so chill. So they don't make for good actors. But Gentoos are so gentle and I love them. And then fairy penguins are the smallest penguins and I just love them. Sorry. Y'all just have to hear this whole rant about penguins and you're just going to have to deal.
There's all this penguin knowledge, so you can read this book.
They're like so prepared for penguin and it's literally like she spent her time in Antarctica and loves penguins. That's it. But I prepared you well.
That's right. All right.
Oh,
My next one is
Mhm.
he's a 10, but he lives in a creepy fortress surrounded by crows and he likes to insult you. And this one is Master of Crows by Grace Draven, who is probably one of my most favorite authors. Picture a dark fantasy romance where our female main character, her name is Martise. Okay, if you've read Grace Draven before, you know that she loves to pick crazy fantasy names. She's like along SJM lines of, I think they just smack their keyboards and the name appears. But she is essentially a servant to these awful mage priests, and they make a deal with her where she can have her freedom if she agrees to spy on the male main character, and his name is Silhara. So there's lots of verbal sparring and, of course, dashes of spice, and it's set against this romantic gothic fortress background. And it's the perfect read if you're wanting some summer ween vibes. I've been seeing lots of people wanting to read summer
Hmm.
ween books. This one's got it, spooky atmosphere and all, and spicy romance. So
I just think of Nevermore by Edgar Allan Poe when
yes.
I think of crows. So that would be ominous and scary to me. I remember reading that book or that poem. Is it a book or poem? I don't remember.
Home. Yeah.
Either way, trauma because I was like, this is terrifying. This guy's wild. So that,
Yeah.
I
I feel
mean,
like
honestly,
crows just associate that. Yeah.
yeah, I do. I associate. I mean, crows are supposed to be, I think, pretty intelligent. So
Yeah.
if he controls crows, he's probably means business. So I'm gonna avoid. Oh, that sounds good. I'm gonna have to add that one to my list. Also, too, for our
Yeah.
listeners, head over to YouTube so you can see some of these covers of these books because
Yeah.
April's gonna put mine to shame. Every single one she's pulled out so far are so beautiful. She picks always the best books. She's got good taste. We're gonna have to do a whole YouTube of just her showing off exclusives just so y'all can drool at some of these book covers because man. Ugh. All right. I'll do my he's a 10 now. Sorry. Small rant again. If it's not penguins, it's special editions. My two loves. This one of our listeners is gonna love. Shout out to Brittany. You're gonna love this. So he's a 10. But he's your brother's best friend. And also, I have actually two he's a 10s for this one. So he's a 10, but he randomly breaks out in song at the end of the book. I'm talking about is Twisted Love. I gave her so much crap when I was talking about this book. I love this book, by the way. No shade or hate to Anna Huang. She is a phenomenal writer. But it did kind of take me aback at the end of this book. This guy just belts out in song when he didn't sing the entire book. I was like, okay. So he's a 10, but he sings. And so Ava's a sweet, optimistic, trying to move on from her past. Alex is her brother's best friend. He agrees to watch over her while her brother's away, which we all know where that leads people. They immediately catch feelings, cue the tension, secrets, trauma, a man who will burn the world down for a girl. Think brother's best friend, forbidden romance, billionaire vibes, touch her and die energy, and just enough angst to keep you yelling, kiss already.
Honestly, I can see why you love this book because as you were talking about it, I was like, yes, yes.
You know me. I love a billionaire. I
Yeah.
love brother's best friend. When it's kind of forbidden, just add that little a little bit of tension in there. But like I said though, he did break out in song at the end of the book, so I was a little confused about what direction it was going. But I was not mad because the rest of the book was so good. So I had to share.
I don't know that I've read Twisted Love because I feel like I would remember if somebody just broke out into song randomly. What does he
Yeah,
sing?
he, like, gets on stage and he sings, and he's, like, a tough guy, like, a tough guy. He just randomly just said, "I'm gonna get up on stage and sing." It didn't really
Mm,
seem like his vibe, but then when I heard Brittany was trying to tell me, "No, he's like a tortured soul, I think he could be who." I was like, "Okay, alright, you convinced me," but I'm like, hey, it just took me by surprise. I'm like, "This guy just started singing." So,
that is
yes,
amazing.
I had to shout out Twisted Love there, so that
I'm
was
gonna have
my
to read that or go
yeah.
back and reread it if I have because I feel like I need to
You will,
experience
and they're
this.
gonna tell me, "Yes, it was an odd moment for sure."
Maybe Anna was just like inspired by something that happened to her at the moment. She's like, he must sing.
Well, too, like, when I picture a guy just breaking out in song, I picture the scene
Yeah.
from Animal House where the guy's, like, singing on the staircase with a guitar, and,
Yeah.
John Belushi gets down and sees him, and he's, like, looking at him. He looks at him, looks at the guitar, he grabs the guitar and then starts smashing it against the wall and then, like, hands him back the little scraps, and I'm like, "Fair, same," because if somebody was pretentious and just started breaking out in song, I would be like, "Gag, I cannot, please
Yeah.
don't." But then from Anna's point of view, she may be picturing like shout out to Vlado from Melrose Avenue, but she could be picturing that where he's just like soulful and emo and just sexy and something like that. So, hey, that could be the vibe and I just totally my mind didn't prepare it that way. So maybe
Yeah.
I need to just open my eyes and be like, Vlado, it's him. It's him who is singing.
Whenever I read, and I used to read a ton of musician romances when I was
Mhm.
younger, but I do read way less now. I feel like the Barbie movie got it so right. And so every time I read a story that has like any sort of musical scene with a man singing or playing a song, I just think of them strumming the instruments on the beach, and they're just sitting there trying to be interested. That's all I can picture for those.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. there's just been some good rock star romances and stuff that I've read lately. I've been like on a rock star kick. There's been some hidden gems that I found. Dirty Like Me, that's has to be one of my favorites so far
Mm.
that I've read. But I did also finish Through the Storm by Rebecca Elder. Oh my gosh, that one was super good. And her inspiration was Melrose Avenue. And she was there last year at Kink and Ink Con and they performed. And at the end, she handed him her book and she's like, I made this book about you. And
Wow.
he was so stunned. He's like, oh, me? You made a book
Wow.
about me? And he's so sweet and humble or whatever. He's like reading it and he's like, this is spicy. And I was reading it last night. This is spicy. Thank you. What a good gift. She shot her shot and shot it all the way to
Yeah.
the top. She said, this book is about you. What a dream, Like
Yeah.
you wrote a book inspired about somebody. You get there, you get to meet him and hand him her book. Say less,
Seriously.
sis. Making dreams
Amazing.
come true. Your own dreams.
That's right.
I'm in awe, actually.
The
So good.
talent and just the bravery that takes is incredible.
Yeah, yeah. I'd
Okay.
be like, "Please don't." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Don't read my stuff because I don't want you to know. I want it to be a
Right.
secret between me and the internet and all the people with the readers to know." I don't know, though. Maybe she shot her shot.
She did. And speaking of shooting your shot, this is my final book for He's a 10. So he's a 10, but he's a court jester, and you're a stuck up princess who secretly loves the scarlet ribbons that he leaves for you. And he may also be the most dangerous man in the castle, even though he literally is a jester and wears bells and all of that. Okay. So this
Mm.
is Trick by Natalia Jaster. Now, I will say Natalia Jaster has a very, if you've ever read her books, you know what I'm talking about. She writes very poetically. It's very lyrical, her writing is, which is not always everybody's favorite. I
Mhm.
enjoy it a lot, but she is one of those authors where I'm like, what does that word mean? What does that word mean? But this is a fantasy romance and it's featuring seasonal courts, which we are all probably familiar with at this point in time. But rank really defines a person's station in this world. And so our female main character, her name is Briar, and she's the princess of the Autumn Court who finds herself drawn to the Spring Court's jester, and his name is Poet. So we've got court intrigue, we've got politics, but also tons of spice and tons of yearning. If you're somebody who really likes the yearning, this is definitely it. And Poet is a very talented jester. So I'll leave that. It is a great book. I have to show you. Look at this artwork. For those who are watching on YouTube, I'm sorry, you get to see it too, but just, I love it. It's stunning. Yep.
Woo! He is
I
hot,
know.
people. You're
It
gonna have
is
to
a
just
very
tune
hot
into
book.
YouTube to see that.
It is a very hot book.
Man, I wouldn't think that a jester would be inherently hot, but
Yeah.
then you add the aspect of it kinda being forbidden, of you
Yeah.
being a princess, and then him being like
Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something about that. It's like, yeah,
It is
I could see.
very like star-crossed lovers, not supposed to be together, but it is very spicy. Very, very
Oh,
spicy.
we're gonna wrap this up with my he's a 10. So he is a 10, but he also owns a hotel empire that you work at that Char would absolutely have a field day. So the book I'm talking about is Tempt Me by K.A. Tucker. Now we're also gonna kind of talk about just the series as a whole, y'all. But Abby is trying to rebuild her life, and she meets Henry, who is equal parts charming, protective, and a walking red flag for her self control. What started as undeniable chemistry turns into something a whole lot deeper as they both have to decide if they're willing to risk their hearts. So think small town vibes, forced proximity, emotional baggage. This is a bad idea. So, more into this book because I feel like that synopsis was not deep enough how this book goes. Okay.
I was gonna say, you've told me about this book before, and I was like, that didn't even touch on the things
Yeah.
that I feel like I've heard about
Right.
this.
Okay. Okay. So this girl meets this hotel owner and it is a slow burn, okay? But this girl is a freaking match is all I can say. She just like is like, "You know what? My fire isn't burning up," which kills me. Okay. So she's wanting this guy and he's like, "No, no, no, I'm your boss. I can't. I can't." And she's just, "Is it because I'm a virgin?" And he's like, "Oh, whoa, I didn't even know you were a virgin. Like, that's crazy." That actually makes me even more because he's like very mature. He's like,
Yeah.
I've been with virgins, they get attached, et cetera, which does make sense, y'all. It is a chemical reaction. You have sex with somebody, guess what? You're going to have an attachment to them. Spoiler. But this guy is, gosh, if I do that, I mean, like, I don't want you to get too attached. So he's putting like pumps to brakes. And she's like, no, I'm going to step on the gas. She then starts hooking up with the other workers in this hotel. It leads to her having a threesome with 2 other guys. Okay, oh, mind you, so she gets a job at this hotel, and they're all, like, in cabins at this wolf hotel. So each of them are in cabins, right, separated. 2 of the guys that's, like, in these other cabins, a threesome, and they're going at it. I'm like, "This girl went from virgin to every hole filled."
She's like, bet.
Just was like, "Holy cow." Full send. She's like, "Guess I'm not a virgin now." I was like, "No, you're not. You know how that works?" Jeez. I remember reading this and talking to our friend Morgan and being like, "Holy cow." It's like, we just like, full send.
Full send.
Was not mad because it made for such an entertaining series. And K.A. Tucker is so sweet. I've met her in person. I meet her and she looks
She's
she
very
looks
wholesome.
wholesome. But oh my God, she writes spice, girl. This book, I ate it up. I could not stop reading. I burned through like the entire series so quick. And logistically looking at it too, I don't think the timeline is very long, kind of like 50 Shades of Grey, where it only takes a place over what, 2 months, 3 months, or something crazy
Yeah.
like that. It's very similar in that regard. So it has a quick timeline, but holy cow, she's like, you know what? If I'm gonna let that stop me, I'm gonna go through the door. Every
She's
but
like
I'm
saving my
like,
virginity for
well,
nothing. I'm just
so
gonna
yeah,
do this
because she was
all.
literally, I think she was marrying a guy and her fiance break up, and she was like, "Man, I was waiting this whole time just to get married and have sex. Well, now I'm not getting married, so I guess I need to have sex." A lot of it, all over the place. Like I said, every hole filled. Go her, women power. But still, I was like, that's so much.
That would be so shocking 'cause from that synopsis and what the book's kind of premise is, it's like, where did this come
Well,
from?
so like lo and behold, I did not know that deep into the story. I think I filtered my Kindle by billionaire romance. And this popped up. Being like one of my favorite tropes is billionaire. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this book series. So what a shocker when it goes to that. And then I'm sitting there going, is this a why choose? Because
Right.
I'll tell y'all, why choose is not my favorite. And ensue the witch hunters who want to be like, oh no, it's at the best. I have read why choose books and I do like some of them. Madison Kate, the series by Tate James, I do like. I do have questions about that one too. I came up to her. There was a y'all, this is a rabbit hole, but let me tell y'all another book with like 3 dudes and then 1 girl. And I was like, so they're all like, but like, where are the legs? I was logistically like, and so she's literally has a piece of paper and Tate's like Australian. So she's like, all right, let me show you, and she's like showing me. I'm like, I still am a little lost. I read the scene, but I need like my
It doesn't make
brain just
sense.
couldn't. I was like visually, I'm like, okay, so there's 1 back there, and then 2 in 1 hole, and 1's in, and I'm just like my
Somebody's legs were, like,
logistics.
up in the
Yeah,
air or something
that's what
like
I was like.
that.
Girl, you bend every direction. I'm just determined that she's a gymnast, a full
Yeah.
gymnast. And that's where I left it at. I'm like, okay, the question was remain unanswered, but I will just leave it as she was the most flexible woman on earth. But
We
like,
suspend
like
reality a little bit.
yeah, yes. I have read Why Choose and I have found them enjoyable, but the latter to that is it's not my favorite. I
Yeah.
just, I prefer one guy that's chosen in the end or one love interest just because I just gravitate naturally always towards one.
Yeah.
When I'm reading those books, I'm always have a favorite. I do.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh, but you don't want this one? And then like she's like, no, I love all 3 of y'all. I want to marry all of you. And I'm like, no, girl, I like him more. So, like, I always have my
Yeah.
favorite. So that's why choose doesn't work for me because I'm just picky.
You're like, "I like that one best." But you know what? We
In
know
the end,
people
though,
who
I'm like,
love
don't
Why
choose
Choose.
any. Be alone. There's too many.
Yeah, for real. Take care of yourself, girl.
It's too much testosterone. No, thank you. I'm like, don't need all that. That's too much.
Does Tempt Me end up being a Why Choose or
No, it's
reverse
not.
harem, I
It's not.
guess it would
She
be?
she chooses the one guy, but it's kind of good because she gets it all out of her system, because she hasn't
Sows
had
all
that.
those
Which I
oats,
think
yeah.
is good, like, she needed to do the thing, and he also forgives her too because he's like, "Well, I'm a bit of playboy my whole life,
Yeah.
whatever." But he was kinda a little bummed, and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, who human wouldn't when you found out that the one girl that you're
Yeah.
starting to like, she not only gets 1 dude, but 2." So, it's like, well,
Girl has power.
yeah, and then I kinda liked one of the guys that she was hooking up with too. I'm like, "He has a personality, he seems fun." The guy Henry seemed kinda like, not but later in the series, you end up loving him because you're like, oh, okay. It's just honestly holding it in, just letting her do her thing, not trying to be controlling. And I think that's the best way a guy should be. He's letting her do what she needs to do to feel whole. And she felt kind of suppressed. So this was her getting out what she needed to. So bravo to him for at least seeing that and understanding it and waiting on his lady. He was like, she's going to come back to me at some point. And that was that.
Right.
So good for him
Happy
for having
ending.
patience. Yeah, happy ending and one person. So that was good for me because I'm like, don't pick 4. Like, I just,
Where's
oh
this
my
going?
gosh. There's so many that are like, we made it work. Like, I just picture like Wizard of Oz. They're all like linked arms and they're like,
Going
riding
down the
up
yellow brick
into the
road.
sunset. Yeah, like all up into the sunset. Like, I just can't. I can't. It seems so silly.
My
But
goodness.
I still read it.
It's so
So
good.
what
You
does
know
that
what?
say about me?
Those books, though, make for the best stories because you're like, wait, you have to hear what I'm reading right now. You have to hear what is going on. You have to find somebody who's read that book. That's the most frustrating thing, too, is like when you've read something, you're like, I need you to read this book right now because I need somebody to talk to about this.
Yeah, and I need to know, like, engagement. How weird is
Yeah.
your reading and what are you okay with? Honestly, I think somebody super chill would be like, "Yeah, I read what I choose." I'd be like, "Oh, thank God we're gonna get along." Because if you're somebody
Yeah.
that's like, "Oh my gosh, I think Emily Henry and Colleen Hoover are the best." Okay. I am not dissing to that, but if that's your first thing out and then there's really not much behind that, I'm gonna be like, "You're
Girlfriend, let me take your hand and
yeah."
help you.
Probably gonna think I'm unhinged, and I don't know if I can have it be that one-sided. I need you to
Right.
join in the unhingedness. So I might be like, "Okay, you need to read, like, Sarah Kate or something with a little bit of extra out there so I can catch your vibe, and if your vibe meets up with me, then let's go from there." Or
Right.
some priest by Sierra Simone
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
with a
Sierra
priest
Simone.
named Tyler. Okay, I'm sorry, but his
So
name.
good. Conversation for a whole other day, but
I
definitely
know.
conversation worthy.
Ooh, that would be a good one, like, names
Yeah.
that you wouldn't think in a book. You talked about, like, slamming the keyboard, like, yeah, there's some wild ones. I'm like, "What?" Like, you're gonna name just Tyler, but then, like, call this other guy Prometheus. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
love it.
fabulous. Love it. All right, besties. That's it for today's episode.
Make sure to follow, download, and share our podcast socials with other book besties. We would love to hear how y'all play He's a 10, and hear your red flags. Please leave a comment on your favorite platform letting us know.
And join us next week where we're talking all things sports romance.
And remember,
We're glad you're here because
it's faded.